Welcome to the Daggerheart Arena, where multiple character builds battle it out to become the champion. Daggerheart released new classes for playtesting, the Fighter and the Warlock. Our previous video demonstrated these two in level 1 combat. Now let's put them to the test at level 5. The Fighter's class features allow powerful unarmed strikes that can stack bonus damage using Combo Strike. The Martial Arts subclass provides a certain effect depending on the combat stance you are using. The Fighter currently has 6 stances it can switch between. I will explain them when activated during combat. At level 5, characters have access to their subclass specialization. For this Fighter subclass, it gains the skill to basically reduce an incoming attack roll by half. The second skill is a Spirit Blast that hits targets within close range, giving the Fighter a way to hit out of reach targets of its melee attacks. Characters can have a max of 5 domain cards in their loadout. The rest are stored in their memory vault and can be swapped into the active loadout at the card's recall cost. The Fighter's loadout is defensive based, with many skills that make it hard to hit and avoid high damage. The Boost skill will start inactive in its vault. The Warlock class features basically give more experiences with a different resource. Its ancestry features are Fearless and Fly, allowing the Warlock to turn fear rolls into hope and fly around the battlefield. Pact of the Wrathful subclass can reroll attacks and deal stress. The specialization uses a favor to reroll damage dice. The loadout is focused on crowd control, able to apply vulnerable and withered conditions, and drain a ton of stress. If a creature has 0 stress, they become vulnerable, and if they have to mark another stress while at 0, they lose HP instead. Plus some skills require stress to use, so this prevents using them often. Stress builds are viable in this game. Summon Horror will start inactive in its vault. Here are the arena rules. Each character starts with max hope and stress. Warlock will start with 3 favor. Once a character has 0 HP, they are eliminated. One character can take multiple turns as long as they succeed with hope. So if there is only one character on the team, they can keep attacking. And if someone needs to roll an agility to get to an area, they can also attack right after. Characters cannot use tag team, but they can use help an ally if it narratively makes sense. Tag team is designed to deal heavy damage. Players would just use that on their first turn to deal as much as possible. Plus, it gives an edge to the team with area of effect skills, since it would deal heavy damage to multiple targets. It is better to remove this feature in player versus player matches for balanced competition. To simulate GM moves, characters can spend a hope to switch the spotlight to them after an opponent attacks someone not on that opponent's team with a weapon, spell, enrapture, anything, and succeeds with hope. Characters can spend a hope to clear one of their conditions and still take their turn normally. In a regular campaign, GMs can spend a fear in combat to immediately take a turn after a player. They can also spend a fear to clear a condition on an adversary, but it also ends the adversary's turn in doing so. Let the battle begin. Team Blue versus Team Red. Blue team rolled higher, they get the first move. Fighter begins the game, spending a stress to gain focus points. The martial arts subclass uses focus points as a resource to do abilities and switch martial arts stances. Fighter will spend a focus to get in devastating stance, which allows them to turn damage dice into D20s instead of the regular roll. It has potential to do crazy damage. Both Warlocks have the ability to fly with their ancestry feature, flavored as a jetpack, so they activate it to fly 10 feet into the air to avoid melee attacks. Red Fighter uses stress to gain focus points, activating devastating stance, then takes cover behind the rock. All rocks and trees are 20 feet high, and for the arena, characters cannot land on them. Flies 10 feet up to the same rock. Warlock will start aggressive, dashing into enemy lines to get a clear shot. Since they dash beyond 30 feet, close range, they need to make an agility roll. And they succeed, but the roll is with fear, so the turn would go back to the red team. However, Warlock will use his other ancestry feature, Fearless, spending 2 stress to turn that fear into hope instead. Warlock gets to continue his spotlight, as part of his back armor pops out and slides over his right shoulder, forming a laser gun that shoots a beam at the red fighter. using Voice of Dread. Red Fighter uses a focus to react with Keen Defenses, which in a normal campaign would cause the GM to use a D12 on that attack roll instead. GMs roll everything with a D20, unlike players that roll 2D12s. So in the arena, this ability simply reduces the player's attack by half, making that roll of 9 plus 11, total of 20, turn into a 10, plus the modifier. 14 is a miss. They failed an action roll, so the other team goes. Red Fighter uses focus to have their next attack be a devastating Dragon Fist, which means if it hits, all the damage dice will be D20s. Spends a stress to gain more focus points. You can store a max equal to your instinct. In order to reach a Warlock 10 feet in the air, Red Fighter will wall run up this rock and jump off to unleash an uppercut. Hopefully this agility roll goes through, cause this would look awesome. Nice! They successfully leap off the rock to get in attacking range. That's a crit! Oh no! Remember, this attack is with Devastating, which turns the damage dice into D20s. On critical attacks, you roll normal damage, plus the maximum of your damage die. Since the damage dice for this attack is 3d20, that is 60 damage, on top of the damage rolled, of 39, for a total of 99 damage. That is some Final Fantasy Limit Breaker style. Obviously that is severe damage. There is an optional rule. If the damage is twice the severe threshold, it deals 4 HP instead. But we are not using that in the arena. So Warlock uses an armor to reduce the damage to major, and loses 2 HP. Also, critical successes give the user a hope and clear a stress. Fighter spends a hope to interrupt, and immediately takes a turn. Remember, this is simulating GM moves, since GMs can spend a fear to immediately take a turn after a player. Fighter dashes behind the red Warlock. Since it's beyond close range, they have to make an agility roll. Succeeds. Gain a hope and clear a stress. Puts their wrists together and energy builds between their palms. Then palm thrusts forward as a beam of energy shoots out for a spirit blast. Come 15 hits for 32 damage. That is severe. So Red Warlock uses an armor and loses 2 HP. Red Warlock intercepts using Siphon Essence on the other Warlock, which if it hits, heals the user. And it does. Once this ability successfully hits, it can't be used until the next rest. Warlock uses an armor and loses 1 HP. They rolled with fear, so the turn switches to the other team. Warlock will also use Siphon Essence to recover HP. That hits. Red Warlock uses an armor and loses 1 HP. They rolled with fear, so it's Red Team's turn. Red Fighter will run up this incline, unleashing a Spirit Blast. Warlock uses an armor and loses 1 HP. Fighter interrupts, recharging their focus. And unleashes a Spirit Blast. Hits for 43 damage. Damn. and will spend another focus to apply vulnerable, which means attacks on the Warlock have advantage. Red Warlock uses an armor and loses 2 HP. Red Warlock intercepts, spending 2 stress to switch a domain card from their vault to their loadout, which is Summon Horror replacing Siphon Essence, since Siphon can no longer be used this fight. You can pay a domain card's recall cost to instantly make that card available to use in your loadout. It is the lightning bolt on top of the card. In a regular campaign, during rests, you can freely swap these cards, otherwise you must pay. Red Warlock switches their laser gun to assault mode to shoot a deadly beam at the fighter, using Summon Horror. Fighter spends a stress to use I See It Coming, gaining a bonus to their evasion, with a total of 21, making that attack a miss. Turn switches to the blue team. Warlock also swaps Summon Horror to their active loadout, and shoots a beam at the Red Warlock. Warlock will apply Energy Drain. When you succeed with Hope, you can force the target to mark a stress instead of you gaining that hope. Red Warlock uses an armor and takes no damage. And since the attack hits, target must make a reaction roll or lose 1d4 stress. 9 is a fail. So in one turn, Warlock forced the opponent to lose an armor and lose multiple stress. That's pretty good. Red Fighter interrupts with a Spirit Blast. Warlock uses an armor and loses 1 HP. Fighter interrupts, switching his martial arts stance to Scary, which on attack hits also causes the target to mark a stress. The Spirit Blast connects. Red Warlock uses an armor and loses 1 HP, as well as loses 1 stress, because of the martial arts stance. Red Warlock interrupts, uses a hope to remove the vulnerable condition. This simulates GM moves, since GMs can spend a fear to remove an adversary's condition, but in the arena, characters can continue their turn after. Red Warlock shoots a beam at the fighter, using Summon Horror. 17 is exactly the fighter's evasion, but they use I See It Coming to increase their evasion and cause that attack to miss. Red Warlock will use Death Herald, which spends a favor to re-roll a missed attack. Wow, same roll. Because Death Herald misses, the Warlock loses a stress. This fighter build is hard to hit. Warlock flies behind the rock for cover and fires a laser gun at Red Warlock, using Summon Horror. It hits. Now Red Warlock must do a reaction or lose stress. Succeeds, so they just use an armor and lose 1 HP. Red Fighter goes after the other fighter with a dragon kick, but their speed easily dodges. They failed an action roll, so the other team goes. Warlock continues to Summon Horror. 24 hits. The reaction roll fails, and since they have no more armor, they will lose 1 HP. On top of losing 3 stress. But since they don't have 3 stress, they must lose another HP. Warlock will also use Energy Drain, and no more stress means another HP lost. Red Warlock is eliminated. What a combo. Red Fighter needs to take out the Warlock in order to win this fight, since it's easier to hit. It dashes and wall runs to reach the Warlock for an uppercut. The agility roll difficulty for this is higher than normal, since it is beyond 30 feet, into a wall run, next to an enemy. Damn, the red fighter gets contested by the other fighter, so it does not reach the Warlock, only gets halfway. Since the roll failed, turn goes back to the blue team. Warlock gets in melee range, to prevent I see it coming from activating. Actually, it will remain 10 feet in the air, keeping it at very close range, to avoid melee attacks. Warlock wants to reduce the red fighter's crazy damage output, using the skill Withering Affliction. So this skill gives the withered condition. Whenever the afflicted target deals damage, the damage is reduced by 1 HP. Well, it would have affected the red fighter, but they will spend a focus to use Keen Defenses, reducing that attack by half. 12 plus 6 is 18, half that to 9, plus the mod, makes this a miss. Red fighter wall runs up the rock for an uppercut, but loses their footing, sliding back to the ground. Agility roll failed. Fighter takes the opportunity and runs in with a flying kick. But red fighter uses Keen Defenses to slide away just in time. Red fighter charges their focus and attempts another wall running uppercut. Succeeds this time. But misses the attack. This is looking bad for the red team. Warlock flies back, away from any rocks, and attempts Withering Affliction. But red fighter uses I See It Coming to increase its evasion to a total of 21, making that attack a miss. Red fighter runs in, charging up a Spirit Blast. 35 is severe damage. Warlock uses an armor and loses 2 HP. Fighter runs after the other one with a flying kick. Red fighter crouches under the attack and releases a Spirit Blast at the Warlock. Warlock uses an armor and loses 2 HP. Warlock switches its laser gun to stun mode, firing a beam at the red fighter, using Voice of Dread. But Keen Defenses turns that into a miss. Red fighter counters with a Spirit Blast. Since Warlock has no more armor, they will lose 2 HP and are eliminated. It is now 1-on-1, both fighters at full health, and both difficult to land a hit on. Honestly, I'm gonna fast forward this part, cause this could take forever.
2 hours later.
Both fighters are at half health. Resources are running low. They have been dodging attacks left and right. Red fighter is currently vulnerable since it has 0 stress. It is now fighter's turn as it strikes with a jab. That's a crit. Clears a stress and gains a hope. Crits auto succeed, so all those defensive skills can't stop this. The damage is 19, plus the max damage of the dice. 3d10 max is 30, for a total of 49 damage. Red fighter uses an armor and loses 2 HP. Their current martial arts stance also deals stress on hits, but the red fighter has no more stress. And when you have to mark stress while at 0, you mark HP instead. Fighter will also spend 3 hope to apply Stagger Strike on that same hit, dealing another stress and causing the staggered condition, which means the target's attacks have disadvantage. Once again, that stress causes another HP loss, dropping the red fighter to 1 HP left. Great combo. Red fighter interrupts, clears the staggered condition, and punches the ribcage. 21 hits. Fighter has no more armor. It loses 2 HP. Roll is with fear, so the turn switches. Fighter spends stress to recharge focus and switches to defensive stance, which means all attacks against it have disadvantage unless they mark a stress. Can the fighter deal the finishing blow here? Dragon Fist for the win? But the red fighter had another focus ready to use keen defenses and deflects the punch. Red fighter counterattacks, but fighter blocks. Fighter quickly jabs to the chest, and it hits. No more resources to defend this. The attack goes through. Fighter wants this to be the winning blow, so they will apply Combo Strike, unleashing rapid punches. Combo Strike adds bonus damage when a melee attack hits. You keep rolling d4 dice one at a time, until the current d4 value is less than the previous d4 value. 1 is less than 4, so now you add all the previous dice together. 1 plus 4 is 5, plus the damage roll of 14, is a total of 19 damage. That will be major damage, which means even with an armor slot, 1 HP goes through. Red fighter is eliminated. Blue team wins. Fighter is tough as hell to hit. 17 evasion with many defensive skills. And even with a defensive build, it still has great offense. Its weakness is that it's mostly a melee ranged combatant, so it has trouble with targets out of reach. Luckily for this match, the fighter had Spirit Blast available, which is a subclass skill. Thanks to that, it was able to attack the Flying Warlock. The martial art stances are fun to mess with. It allows flexibility, depending on the combat situation and your character build. As for the Warlock, it had a rough time trying to hit the evasive fighter, but the Dread Domain does have great crowd control and debuff. Overall, the series is fun to make, so if you want more Daggerheart Arena episodes, make sure you comment below. Thank you for watching, thank you for subscribing, and until next time, peace.